Hello everybody and welcome back to another airport update. Today's update will be on Tokyo Narita International Airport. This airport is located in the city of Tokyo, Japan, and it is one out of two airports serving the city. So yeah, let's get started with Terminal 1. Here, starting off at Terminal 1, we have this Aero Mexico Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Mexico City in Mexico as Flight 57. Now, Terminal 1 is mostly Star Alliance, but there are a few other alliances here at Terminal 1. So, yeah. Next up here is this beautiful Air France Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Paris Charles de Gaulle in France as Flight 147. And right after that here we have this Biman Bangladesh Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Dhaka in Bangladesh as Flight 377. Following that we have another Boeing 787 aircraft. Here we have this El Al Israel Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Tel Aviv in Israel as Flight 92. Following that here we have this Etihad Airways Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates as Flight 871. And right next to that we have this KLM Royal Dutch Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Amsterdam in the Netherlands as Flight 862. Here we have this FlyScoot Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Singapore as Flight 809. And here we have our first Star Alliance aircraft. Here is a Swiss Airbus A340-300. This aircraft is going to be headed to Zurich in Switzerland as Flight 161. Following that we have this Thai Airways Airbus A350-900. This aircraft will be headed to Bangkok in Thailand is Flight 643. After that we have this Turkish Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Istanbul in Turkey as Flight 51. Now we have this Uzbekistan Airways Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft is going to be headed to Tashkent in Uzbekistan as Flight 528. Next up here we have this United Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft is going to be headed to San Francisco in California as Flight 838. Moving on here we have this United Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. Once again, this aircraft will be headed to Los Angeles in California as Flight 33. And right next to that here we have this United 787-9 once again. This aircraft will be headed to Denver in Colorado as Flight 142. And here we have this United Airlines Boeing 787-9. This aircraft will be headed to Houston, George Bush in Texas as Flight 6. And here we have another United Airlines aircraft. This aircraft is a Boeing 787-9 of course, and he'll be headed to Newark in New Jersey as Flight 78. The next aircraft we have here is this United Airlines Boeing 757-200. He's going to be headed to Guam as Flight 197. Next up here is this Singapore Airlines Airbus A380-800. This aircraft will be headed to Singapore as Flight 637. Here we have this Vietnam Airlines Boeing 787-9. He's going to be headed to Hanoi in Vietnam as Flight 311. And here we have our second Vietnam Airlines aircraft. It's another Boeing 787-9. This one will be headed to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam as Flight 301. Next up, starting our Zip Air hub, we have this Zip Air Boeing 787-8. This aircraft will be headed out to Singapore as Flight 53. Up here we have this Zip Air Boeing 787-8 once again. This aircraft will be headed to Honolulu in Hawaii as Flight 2. Next up here is another Zip Air Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to San Jose in California as Flight 30. Following that here we have this Zip Air Boeing 787-8. Once again, this aircraft will be headed to Los Angeles in California as flight 24. Following that, we have this Zip Air Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to Vancouver in Canada as flight 22. Here, wrapping up the Zip Air section, we have this Zip Air Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to San Francisco in California as flight 26. Next up here, we have this Air Canada Boeing 777-200LR. He's going to be headed to Montreal in Canada as flight 6. Here we have this Air Canada Boeing 777-200LR. He's going to be headed to Toronto in Canada as flight 10. And here we have our last Air Canada plane. We have this Air Canada Boeing 777-200LR. He's going to be headed to Vancouver in Canada as flight 4. Starting off the ANA hub, we have this ANA Boeing 787-9. He's going to be headed to Perth in Australia as flight 881. Next here we have another All Nippon Airways Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This one will be headed to Mumbai in India as flight 829. Here we have this All Nippon Airways Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to Mexico City in Mexico as flight 180. Here we have this All Nippon Airways Boeing 787-9. He's going to be headed to Los Angeles in California as flight 6. Next here is this ANA Boeing 787-9. He's going to be headed out to San Francisco in California as flight 8. Here we have this ANA Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Chicago O'Hare in Illinois as flight 12. Next up here is this Air Japan Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to Seoul Incheon in South Korea as flight 21. Here we have this ANA Airbus A380. This aircraft will be headed to Honolulu in Hawaii as flight 182. Wrapping up Terminal 1, we have this ANA Boeing 787-8. He's going to be headed to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia as flight 815. So yeah, that does wrap up Terminal 1. Next we'll move on to Terminal 2, which is the Japan Airlines hub. Alright, so here starting off at Terminal 2, we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to San Francisco in California as flight 58. And next up here we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Jakarta in Indonesia as flight 729. And next up here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Singapore as flight 711. And right here we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Los Angeles in California as flight 62. Next up here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam as flight 759. And right here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Bangkok in Thailand as flight 707. Over here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to San Diego in California as flight 66. And right here we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Frankfurt in Germany as flight 407. So here, starting off with the other section of Terminal 2, we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Hong Kong as flight 35. And right here we have this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Melbourne in Australia as flight 773. And right here is this Hawaiian Airlines Airbus A330-200. This aircraft will be headed to Honolulu in Hawaii as flight 822. Right here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Boston in Massachusetts as flight 8. And right here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Manila in the Philippines as flight 745. And right next to that here is this American Airlines Boeing 777-200ER. This aircraft will be headed to Dallas-Fort Worth in Texas as flight 60. Following that is this Air India Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Delhi in India as Flight 307. Next up we have this Juneo Air Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Shanghai in China as Flight 1380. Next up here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Bengaluru in India as Flight 753. Next up here we have this Qatar Airways Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Doha in Qatar as Flight 807. Next up here is this Qantas Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Brisbane in Australia as Flight 62. And here we have another Qantas Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Melbourne in Australia as Flight 80. And right here we have this beautiful Emirates Airbus A380. This aircraft will be headed to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates as Flight 319. Next up here is this Japan Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. He's going to be headed to Seattle in Washington as Flight 68. Now that is the last Japan Airlines flight of the video. And next up here is this Air Premia Boeing 787-9. This aircraft will be headed to Seoul Incheon in South Korea as Flight 732. So I'm just going to keep this cargo section short. So starting off we have this FedEx Boeing 777-200LR. This aircraft will be headed off to Anchorage in Alaska as Flight 169. Here we have this FedEx Boeing 777F. This aircraft will be headed to Memphis in Tennessee as Flight 15. And here wrapping up the cargo section we have this FedEx Boeing 777 Freighter. This aircraft will be headed to Oakland in California as Flight 31. Here taxiing out we have this Thai Airways Airbus A350-900. This aircraft will be headed to Bangkok in Thailand as Flight 641. And right here we have this Jetstar Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft will be headed to Cairns in Australia as Flight 26. Here we have this United Boeing 757-200. He's just arriving in from Saipan as Flight 24. And here, wrapping up the airport update, we have this Jetstar Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. This aircraft is coming in from Brisbane in Australia as Flight 9. So yeah, like I said, that does wrap up this airport update. I hope you enjoyed watching, and yeah, see you in the next one.